necessarily.
But this is about money, John. This is about money.
It is about money.
You can't mess this one up. This is about getting people, making them more money.
Exactly. No Janine Pirro to this position.
You can send anybody to die.
No, Ducey, sit down. You don't get to be the attorney. But anyway.
Donald Trump continues to fill up his clown car with corporate shills and grifters. We're going to take a look at one of the latest for Trump. Francesca Fiorentini, Cenk Uygur, and John Iadarola of the Young Turks broke all this down. We're going to take a look at clips from the Young Turks. I will share my thoughts on this as well. Let's get into it together.
Donald Trump has apparently chosen this individual, Jay Clayton, to be the next U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, and that is an incredibly important position, both in a meta sense, but also specifically to Donald Trump. In that wider sense, it's because that district is home to some of the nation's biggest financial institutions, and so if you're going to be policing them, really important. They have a lot of influence, they have a lot of money. It's why that position has historically been referred to as the Sheriff of Wall Street. But has Donald Trump chosen Jay Clayton to be the Sheriff of Wall Street, or more like the Mater D of Wall Street, the Butler, the Jeeves of Wall Street? Well, we'll see, because we're going to dive into his past, which generally has shown that rather than being a check on these institutions, he's largely worked with them to help them achieve their goals. And so he worked for about 2 decades as a Wall Street lawyer at Sullivan and Cromwell, so he's an insider to the corporations that he would be policing. He eventually joined Trump's first cabinet as the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission. And so back when he was working on Wall Street, he specialized in mergers and acquisitions, represented firms like Goldman Sachs and Deutsche Bank, and helped many corporations raise funds through IPOs. So he has experience in the area. I mean, that's more than can really be said for many of the nominations that Donald Trump has been doing. That doesn't necessarily. But
this is about money, John. This is about money.
It is about money. You
can't mess this one up. This is about getting people, making them more money.
Exactly. No Janine Pirro to this position.
You can send anybody to die.
No, Ducey, sit down. You don't get to be the attorney. But anyway, so when he was at the SEC, this is again under Donald Trump, he loosened and rolled back regulations. Okay, he pursued an aggressive approach to enforcement, though, notably targeting, among others, Elon Musk, who has since emerged as a major Trump booster, but might soon be yeeted out of the Trump orbit because he's really cringy and try hard. We'll see, we'll find out. But anyway, we should discuss, let's also throw out that because Donald Trump and maybe no president ever again is going to do financial disclosures, put their resources into a blind trust, like in theory, he's choosing the guy who would be making decisions as to whether he investigates Donald Trump's businesses, and certainly the businesses of many of his allies, friends, and acquaintances. And so seems fundamentally corrupt and no checks whatsoever. Maybe there'll be an ethics report someday that Mike Johnson won't release, but what do you think?
Yeah, so this is exactly why I said Trump's a fake populist. So right after the election, Bernie came out and said the Democratic Party has gone in the wrong direction and abandoned the working class. And we celebrated Bernie's back, right? In fact, I didn't know this, but I found out today, shoptyt.com has Bernie's back t-shirts already,
nice.
Okay? So, but for Trump, Goldman Sachs is back. He had more people from Goldman Sachs in his first administration than any other administration in history. This is the guy who ran on Drain the Swamp. And look at this, another former Goldman Sachs representative. He represented that firm.
What John Iadarola had to say there is exactly what I was thinking. At least with this guy, he actually has qualifications in this field, unlike people like Matt Gaetz and Pete Hegseth and the other clowns that Trump is filling his cabinet up with. But, this is no news to anyone with a functional brain at all. All of the drain the swamp stuff was absolute BS. Obviously. But you still have millions of MAGA people that believe it, that Donald Trump is actually fighting for them and he's fighting against the deep state and all of that nonsense. It's unbelievable that people actually think all of that is true. And the other thing that I would say, I'm not old enough to remember a time when all of our politicians weren't corrupt in this way. I mean, it's not just Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump is just so blatant about his corruption, and the others try to hide it a bit more. but the whole institution of politics is unbelievably corrupt. Was there a time when it wasn't like this? I mean, was there a time, was it, the 50s, the 60s? That's before my time, but was there a time when politicians actually were trying to represent their constituents and the people of the country rather than just trying to enrich themselves and further enrich themselves?
Is now going to have this incredibly important position. You're going to be shocked to find out, my guess, and if you're a right-wing populist out there and you didn't believe me that Donald Trump was a fake populist, you're about to find out, okay? So my guess is he's going to make sure that Goldman Sachs is not regulated and all of his corporate buddies are not regulated. All of Trump and all of his cronies are not regulated. And this was perfect because before he wanted to regulate Elon Musk, I will predict with absolute certainty here that all of a sudden he will drop the idea of regulating Elon Musk and he'll go and target, either just benign things that make nice headlines, but actually is like a small business worth like $50, right? Or whatever it might be, or like an outrageous character, but not really part of the establishment. Shkreli comes to mind, like these, we got that pharma bro guy. He's not connected to any of the companies, the giant corporations, corporate rule, so it's easy to get him. We got one guy, Obama did this. We got an executive at Goldman Sachs. The kid was like 27 years old or something. And so another time, we got a guy from Goldman Sachs. No, he stole from Goldman Sachs. So these are all giant lies. It's not like the Democrats do a great job of regulating to begin with, but at least they had Lena Khan, and at least they would go a quarter of the way there. This is just saying corporate robbery incoming in 3, 2, 1. Told you, fake populist.
Yeah, I mean, this is me understanding. You gotta love Trump presidencies because you're always like, lesson in civics. President appoints all of these prosecutors in 94 federal districts. I didn't know that. Like, I'm just gonna be 100% honest. I was like, I did not know that. So cool, we're learning together. And yes, that is exactly why he's doing it. This guy is gonna also have the Diddy case. So we've seen all the photos of him and of Donald Trump and Diddy, and the Eric Adams case, which my guess is Adams. Like, what if Adams also head of HUD? Like, what if that's a soft landing for Eric Adams to get out of his crimes and, be like, hey, let's join the actual crime ring itself. But I think, like, we all know Eric Adams is going to become a Republican at some point. So like this is just like part of that. But yay Capitol. If I had my champagne glass, I'm sure I put it around here somewhere.
I personally don't think he'll be the head of HUD. I think it's time for the trash revolution to go national. I think all of us need, he came out with these things. They're containers that you put the trash in. And I think that could work pretty much anywhere. I think it's a good idea. Not just for New York. You'd think just New York, but I don't think just New York. But anyway.
Back to something that Cenk said here. So Cenk Uygur said that Maga is going to find out. No, they won't. This news won't reach into their bubble. And they'll, even if they were presented this, they'll say, Trump makes great hires, blah, blah, blah. And when this goes sideways in terms of the person who's supposed to police Wall Street is a friend to Wall Street, MAGA's not going to listen to that. They're just going to say, what about Biden? What about Obama? What about Hillary? Blah, blah, blah. It will be whataboutism. This won't penetrate their bubble. And if it does, it won't matter anyway because they'll talk about trans people in sports or whatever. So there will be no lessons learned. MAGA isn't, Trump could completely destroy the economy and they're still going to worship him. Donald Trump is their God king and nothing is going to change that. So these stories are just for policy wonks on the left to be outraged by, but they have zero impact on MAGA at all. And of course, there's no surprise that instead of draining the swamp, Donald Trump is filling the swamp with more swamp creatures. That's how it works. MAGA's never going to learn that. Let me know what you think in the comments about this, about what Cenk Uygur, John Iadarola, and Francesca Fiorentini had to say. Absolutely no surprise to me about what is happening here. And we as a country are going to get what we deserve. I've become very nihilistic on this and just accepting the fate of what's going to happen to us, unfortunately. But I try to use this show to fight back a little bit in whatever way I can, whatever small way I can. So if you enjoy what I'm doing here, make sure to give me a like and subscribe. Channel's growing really quickly, 42,000 or so subscribers right now. I'd love to get up to 50,000, 100 and beyond. So if you like what I'm doing, make sure to subscribe so I can continue to grow. This is Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.